Tighten Up, the podcast, is brought to you by Hyperice, the leading provider of innovative technology for recovery, mobility, and improved performance. They help the Titans. They can help you too. Learn more online at hyperice.com.
Detroit, it's time to tighten up. Welcome to Tighten Up, the podcast, presented by The Shield NIL. Brought to you by Hyperice and Last Shot Energy. A state of the Titans, the latest in Detroit Mercy athletics, and a chance to hear from Titans all over the world. Here's your host, Dan Hasty.
It is Tighten Up, the podcast, and welcome back. We're not going to end the calendar year until we talk to Mark Montgomery. It's literally written in the bylaws of this show, and Mark Montgomery has decided to tighten up. He is with us. Mark Montgomery, good to see you, my friend.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks for having me on. A great time to wish everybody happy holidays. Fortunately, I have my coaching voice. We just came back from Wisconsin yesterday. It was a tough one, but you know what? We battled. We definitely battled.
And that has been sort of a theme for you guys throughout the course of the early part of this season. And I want to get into that. But, what's cool about you being here and you being back is that it doesn't really feel like that long ago that you were brought here mid-season as sort of a secret weapon assistant coach that helped Detroit Mercy find some of its best basketball of this decade. And they got hot. I don't think it was a coincidence. And they played some of its best basketball that we've seen in a long, long time. So before we get into that, I'd like to go in kind of chronological order because I do think one has to do with the other. Tell me about that experience for you and what you took from that made you say, you know what, that was a good experience. I'd like to come back.
I don't know about the secret weapon thing, but that was, I still thank Mike Davis to this day that, it felt like an NBA or an NFL coach where you get let go mid-season, even before things really get started. It was the COVID year. Didn't have much practice time in the summer. You didn't have a normal fall. But the athletic director decided to go in a different direction. And, as coaches, we're hired to get fired. Hate to say it like that, but I was there 10 years, thought I did some good stuff. But, it brought me, like you said, back home to Detroit Mercy. Unbelievable team. We found ourselves. We started winning. It felt good. I won the season before. Mike, the staff, the team, at first it seemed like I was one of those coaches that come in, just watch practice, give you the notes, tell you what they think. But then I showed up again. Then I went on a couple trips and they're like, well, I guess he's here to stay. So, and then that gave me the opportunity to really get back familiar with the horizon, because I was in the MAC for 10 years. And then the travel, the teams, and then it ultimately led me to showing people I can be a good assistant again and not just a head coach. That led me to Michigan State, that led me back here. So I already knew my way around campus. I already knew what Callahan Hall was, you know what I mean? So unfortunately, second time in NKU, we got to figure that thing out. But we're going to get them here back in, I think, January or February, but that's kind of how it happened. And we did go on a good run, and it felt good to be back in the coaching fold.
So basically what you're saying is that to anyone who's like an aspiring head coach, just get around a program and just don't leave, just be around and just be in that area, right?
Well, some other things lined up for me to come back. So, like I said, I'm from this area, so I had somewhere to stay. And, I was a volunteer, but he had an opening. And what was nice about it was we did so well. If I didn't land another job, I would have been there in the fall with them, and or when in the spring to the summer to the fall. But other things opened up. But we had a heck of a run. I don't know how many we won, but I know we won the first round game. I think it was against Fort Wayne or Robert Morris or someone. And then we're up under 30 seconds at Northern Kentucky. We're a rebound away from getting to that first Final Four in Indianapolis. And, we got a couple unfortunate bounces, missed some free throws. They tip it in, we lose by one. It's March Madness to the fullest. But I think, God's put you in positions. So he put me in that position to ultimately come back and get this job and lead this program. And I got to get them now to that Final Four.
Yeah, and as I was going to say, and the good news is you can still get them to Indy and beyond. Take me into those conversations as we fast forward into as you figured your way back to Detroit Mercy. Take me into the conversations with Robert Vowles, with Donald Taylor, as you decided, because I know your wife is from this area, so making the move back made some sense on that level, and you already had some familiarity yourself. So if you can pull back the curtain a little bit, what was it like?
Well, it wasn't a short process. I mean, it was believe it or not, it was a long month. You had a phone interview, and then you had a Zoom interview, and then it was another interview with Robert and Kate. Um, and then it was your in-person interview with President Taylor and Mike McNamara. So it wasn't a thing that just happened overnight. Um, I knew I was interested back in January when you start hearing they might make a change, and then you kind of try to get your name out there. I don't have an agent, so I'm representing myself on phone calls, and then I know Coach Izzo did an unbelievable job talking to President Taylor, Robert Vowles, and then I just had to sell myself on my experiences um, from being, growing up in the Detroit area, starting at Central Michigan in the Mac area for 4 years. I know we went from worst to first there to getting to Michigan State, to leaving Michigan State, and taking a program that wasn't very successful and um, getting 100 plus wins at Northern Illinois, and then just regrouping. Sometimes you have to do a reset. So just selling them on my vision. I think they can hear it, the passion I bring. Um, I think they got to circle their wagons and check in with different people. They probably called different coaches within the MAC when I was there. They probably reached out to I don't I when you got a committee that it's a national search. So, it's a lot of good coaches out there, a lot of different names you hear about. But ultimately, I knew when I got that in-person meeting with President Taylor and Mike McNamara, I was not going to hear the answer no. I was going to sell myself, and I was going to sell my vision, sell my passion. And I know we can get this done. But at the same time, you want to hear they want to move the program in a new direction. They want to put money into it. They want to support salaries. They have their vision and their goals. So when those things start to align, then it's a happy marriage.
I could be wrong, but it feels like you have more to work with in terms of your staff this year than we've seen in previous years. So it seems like from that perspective, they're giving you an added commitment to work with from that perspective. True?
Yeah, you need seasoned guys. I told them, in the interview process that, I'm going to have guys that already have college experience. They have their connections, they have their relationships, they have their connections to not just high school, but junior college, to prep schools, to the transfer portal. So I'm not speaking a different language when I was talking to my staff and or the staff I was going to bring in. And then certain guys that I already worked with, and Ian Jones came with me from Michigan State, so he kind of knew my philosophy, and he worked with me for 3 years there. So I felt very comfortable with him. And then we hit the ground running. When you get the job in May, it is definitely speed dating in this recruiting, from high school kids to prep to transfers. And, you know, it's going to be honest, you feel good when you get it on paper, then you got to get them in front of you. No one bats 1,000%, but we got some pretty good kids and we're developing. And I know the freshman class, they're getting a lot of playing time right now. I wish I had a couple of those upperclassmen healthy, but injuries are part of the game. But, you know, I say we're going to play our best basketball in January and February. So I got to make sure that happens. So we got a lot of work to do after Christmas.
I know you want to bat 1,000, and I'm curious what you think you guys have. We'll come back to that, but I wanted to get your thoughts on what Tom Izzo had to do and the influence he had on you getting the spot here. But before you get into that, can you just speak on that relationship?
Well, our relationship goes back to, I think he started recruiting me, and I'm dating myself, in 1986 when I was a sophomore in college. I mean, high school. So thank God I committed early as a senior. And then when nothing has changed at Michigan State. He's been there forever. So a 4-year relationship from when I was 18 to 22 to it doesn't end when you leave that place. The connections, the memories, the reunions. He helped me get my first college job at Central Michigan when he called Jay Smith. So just getting me in the college ranks and teaching me and mentoring me. And, you learn so much on his philosophy, and then you have to establish your own philosophy. But rebounding, defending, running, that doesn't change. Relationship with the players, it doesn't change. How your message gets across, how you connect to families, how you connect to high school coaches. That's just that has to be me. It can't be, when I walk into a house or I'm on a Zoom or however we're recruiting nowadays is I'm selling myself. I can't sell Coach Izzo. Yes, I've been a part of Big Ten championships and Final Fours, but you're coming to play for Coach Monty. And I think through my experiences as a player, coaching there, coaching at Northern Illinois, but he definitely gave me the blueprint. That's what we say: when you leave that place, you have a blueprint to be successful because you're going to roll up your sleeves every single day and not just challenge yourself, but challenge your staff, challenge your team. And that's the fun part of it.
You said how we're recruiting nowadays. So I know things are so different with how you were recruiting, whether it was when you were a head coach at NIU or most of your time as an assistant at Michigan State. The landscape is so different now. So how are you recruiting now? How was speed dating?
Well, it's about to change now. I guess this national junior college rule is about to come across that we're still trying to figure that out. But you know what? You have the transfer portal, and you have I call it the NEAL, name, image, and likeness. But if you're going to build a program, you still need kids in every class. You need a freshman, sophomore, junior, senior class, and usually your upperclassmen, if it's now juniors and seniors, at least they had some college experience. You have to balance it. When I first got in, Michigan State, Central Michigan, we were taking all high school kids. Northern Illinois is a mixture of everyone: high school, junior college, prep school. Back at Michigan State, then it was high school and a few transfers. But nowadays, with the multiple transfer thing, I got 2 guys on my roster now. I have a pretty good backcourt, I think. But 2 guys dropped 20 points against Wisconsin. And, I've been at that level, the Big Ten level. We look at the hot mid-major players. So you got to recruit year round. You have to. I know Coach Stone was out on the East Coast at a big time prep school tournament. We're at JC tournaments. We're in high school tournaments. We look, we're not in the transfer portal right now because no one in men's basketball has transferred like football has. But before you know it, April, March, April, we got to be there too because you got to get some experienced guys. But we already have 2 high school kids signed, which is nice. So we're still developmental, but you got to have a mixture. And, some coaches want to stay old. I think I want to stay in the middle of the pack. We're still working on our neo packages or our collectives, but we want to retain the guys we have. I can tell you that right now.
A big part of the early part of your job was to get used to your players. Are you used to them yet?
Well, that's a thing that's ongoing. I know I'm used to their work ethic because they're putting in a lot of work. When the season started, I had Mac Mansell and Jared Larry. They're my starting wings. Well, they're not right there. They're not there right now. Emmanuel was my starting 4-man. We had 3 straight games without him. But at the same time, we're getting the younger guys ready. The Nate Johnsons, TJ Nadeau's, Grant Gondrzak. So their roles just became bigger within the last month. And you know what? It's we spend a lot of time with the guys. We've been on the road so much with the schedule. That's going to change next year. We got to have more home games. But when you're on the road, you're in film sessions. You're in what I call hoopologies, where we're just talking, not just basketball, but life experiences, different things. You got to get to know the guys. The bus, the hotels, trip to Jacksonville was great. Going to Wake, going to Loyola, going to Wisconsin. So we've had some trips, but also at Ball State, when you lose a player in the first half and you get a huge road win, or in-state rival going down to Eastern Michigan, so I'm getting to know them. They're getting to know me. Good days, bad days, but at the end of the day, they know that I'm going to bring it every day. I'm going to have great energy. My effort is going to be at the top of the ceiling. And that's what I want them to do. So I think they're giving me everything they have. I told them to take a few days off. We're going to regroup on the 26th. And then we're going to tackle this Horizon League.
Give me your best bonding experience that you've had with your guys to this point. Tighten Up is brought to you by Last Shot Premium Hydration, the official hydration drink of Tighten Up, the podcast. Their revolutionary formula is jam-packed with vitamin B12 and 0 grams of sugar. It helps the Titans hydrate, replenish, and recover. Try it at Callahan Hall during a Titans game, or learn more at lastshotofficial.com.
Probably the best bonding after Ball State, walking in the locker room, getting that, I don't know, it felt like a Gatorade shower, bottles, and I don't know if it made it Twitter or they got leaked out, but that was an unbelievable experience. Like that locker room and those guys coming together. Another good experience was at Eastern Michigan when Orlando Lovejoy came out. And, I was just going to give him a hug and tell him, you played well. And, he picked me up and lifted me. And I'm like, that has never happened. And I've had some big wins. But, anytime you win, the excitement in the locker room for the guys that know hard work pays off. but also morning sessions in the weight room. You know, when I'm coming in there firing them up, they're playing their music. I'm dancing around a little bit. And, I think I shock them sometimes. I know the words to their songs, which I really don't. But those things are fun. Um, they've been fun.
You've obviously done the head coaching thing before. Is it kind of like riding a bike?
Yeah, it's kind of like riding a bike, but it's a different 10 speed now. But after you get past your first couple games back where I think JD said it, he's official. They did the Wisconsin game. He said, "You know what, Monty, I don't have to tell you to sit down anymore. You're a head coach again." As assistant, I used to stand up a lot. But just your routine. It's a little different as assistant to a head coach. Um, I'm back to that routine now. Um, I always need my um, before the game quiet session, little spa music to get me in my vibe. And
Spa music.
yeah, like I take it you have internet or whatever it is, spa watercolors, that kind of stuff.
Sure.
Just kind of gets me. I'm so hyper and so excited. So it kind of like brings me down a little bit. And then I can get my thoughts clear. And then I'm all set to do. I need like between 30 minutes to an hour of just quiet time before a game. And then I'm charged up.
You
As
need
a
a calm
assistant,
before the storm, is what you need.
no doubt about it. No doubt about it. Because I am going to be at the guys that tell you I'm wired. And I try to tell them, you know, don't always listen to how it comes out, just what comes out. Because I'm super, super competitive and I get excited. And those things kind of happen.
So take me through, because you had to build, and there's a lot of teams that have to go through this. I mean, especially coming off a season that went the way last year did. You get a lot of new faces this year. So you sort of have a blank canvas of sorts. So, I mean, you don't have as much time because, your time frame is a little more limited, but you can put this together in a way that you see fit, at least as you try to build an identity. So take me through that team build as you put it together during the off season.
Well, the big concentration is in off season. You have to have a couple point guards. I try to have. I like to be too deep at every position. So if I have 2 point guards, you know, you need four wings. Twos and threes, to me, they're all the same, but you need four of them. You need two fours. You love to have a shooting four and a athletic, maybe it could be a shot blocking four, a bruiser four. You like to have a stretch five, but also a rebounding, defending type stretch five. So that gives you 10 scholarships there. And then your last three are kind of wild cards, you know. Um, the wild cards, I always say you probably need a few more guards. Ideally on the team, you probably, if it's 13 scholarships, you have, 7 guards, 6 bigs, or it could be 8 guards and 5 bigs, and you got a tweener. So if you want to play, now in college basketball, you can play small ball. Um, I know I want more shooting going forward. Um, that can alleviate and solve a lot of issues. The ball has to go in the basket. I think I could teach defense, um, but getting guys to put that ball in the basket, it's challenging. And then that's kind of how I built my team. Now, what year and class and all that stuff, you want to have a like let's just throw it out there. If you have a Orlando Lovejoy and Grant was supposed to back him up, so now you have a junior teaching a freshman. But now, at the same time, Grant, he could play two positions. Will that help? You don't know that going in, and then your wings. Some guys could stretch it, like TJ and Nate Johnson was known more as a put it on the basket, more athletic, get to the rim type guy, better defender. So you got two different things there. Mac Mansell, just watching him on film, he's more of a score the ball, stretch the floor. Jared Larry was more of a jack of all trades. You know, you don't want to just have all the same. I don't think, but everyone's different. So that's kind of how we're building it. And then going forward, um, of course, we have Landstone coming in, another point guard, more the one that can stretch the floor, smaller guy, but he can really shoot it. And then we have the Cotton kid coming from Lima, that he's a tweener, he's a 3-4, but he can really shoot the basketball. So our recruiting now is um, we're looking for more shooting. Even with size, we need some bigger guards, 6'3", 6'4", 6'5", and then you're always looking for a big. And maybe, if it's a high school kid or a prep school, or it could be a transfer. So, but we want to make sure. I know I'm evaluating the talent in the lead. That's why your first year is so good. And it's been a mixed box of a lot of different things, because we've played Wright State, who's experienced, where they have an unbelievable shooter and a strong post player that can stretch the floor. But then when you play a Fort Wayne, they're smaller and they play almost like a four guard attack. And then we've played, who else have we played? NKU is more kind of like how we built. They got some shooters, they got a point guard, they got good size, and then they got a four-man that can do a couple different things. So I think I got the lead figured out. Now it's just going out there and getting a few more players here in the off season to make sure that we're competing for that top four in the league, where you can get that first round bye.
How much did it mean to you and your staff to win that first conference game, the Purdue Fort Wayne game?
I know I was relieved. Getting those conference wins are tough. And then you beat a team that, they were picked at the top of the league. I think them and Milwaukee. So that you could compete against the best in the league, per se. That's what the preseason rankings said. But it just gets them, a monkey off your back, because we have 17 more, and they're going to be 17 dog fights. And but also it was big for our guys to build confidence. I thought we already built confidence by beating Ball State and Eastern Michigan, but getting in conference and showing that we can compete against the best. I think that was huge opening weekend.
It sort of felt like last season. I know you weren't here for this, but it sort of felt like last season, with the way the season evolved, whether it was the losing streak or just the season in general, seasons like that take on a life of their own, in the sense of when you're playing against any team, whether it's conference or non-conference, but especially conference, any opponent you play, it becomes that feeling on the other side of, oh, well, we can't lose to that team. We can't lose to them. And to come out and to win your first conference game totally pops the pressure of that bubble. I mean, you were already 4-5 at that point, anyways. I think you had already kind of alleviated that pressure, but getting that win in that moment took care of something so much greater than whatever could have come after it. And I think that was one of the things that I think a lot of people who had watched last year might have been thinking about.
Well, like you said, I wasn't here last year, but I've coached, like you said, college basketball, and you know, you look at the rankings or the standings, and if you're at the top of the league, you say you don't want to lose to a team at the bottom of the league. But a win and lead is almost like two wins, and and I just know that no win is going to be easy. Um, but you are right. All of a sudden, when it's a losing streak, you just take baseball and they lost 10 straight. You don't want to be the team that you get the win against because then it makes major news. I thought that, like you said, we already won some games and that alleviated that. But we're still trying to say, hey, we knew we were picked, and the top doesn't want to lose to the bottom. I I, I feel you. I've been on both sides of it. Um, I just want to establish that hey, it's going to be a dogfight. Whenever we play or whoever we play, top bottom. I remember I used to beat the top half of the league, but we couldn't win in the bottom half of the league. So then you end up in the middle of the league. So you got to figure out how to be consistent to be both top, bottom, middle. But no, that was a relief. You could just hear it from the players, you know, in the locker room. They're like, well, it's a different team. We don't have to wait till March to get the win. You hear it. But I'm like, guys, there's going to be a dogfight every night. But what happens is when you beat the top half, your guys think they arrived.
And that's going to do it for part 1 of our special Christmas episode. We've got part 2 coming up in the days ahead. Thanks to all of you for listening. And don't forget to follow me on X at @DanHasty or on Instagram @DanHasty. A massive thank you to our friends at The Shield. And I'll talk to you Titans of Industry next time.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Tighten Up, the podcast. Join our community at The Shield on theshieldnil.org and follow us on X and Instagram @theshieldnil.
If I can tell you one thing above all else as part of this show, it would be this. If you're unfamiliar, if you haven't done it before, join the community at The Shield Online. It's online at theshieldnil.org. That's theshieldnil.org.